Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche Organization with your daily video update for June 16th, 2022. Let me begin by announcing there will be no update tomorrow on Friday because I'll be engaged in preparation for the Schiller Institute conference coming up this weekend, the 18th and 19th of June. There'll be information on this published below on the description page. I will be moderating the second panel on economics, but I'll get to more on the conference in just a moment. The point is that the world is facing one of the most serious and profound crises of the recent era. And this is not just the world as a large, but also the populations of the Anglo-American world and Europe. And we're going to address solutions at this conference, how to apply the method of bankruptcy reorganization to take power away from the incompetent and immoral idiots who have brought us to the edge of war and financial collapse. And the intention of the war for them is not to protect Ukraine, but to protect their bankrupt system. So I'll get to the conference and what we're going to be doing in a moment, but let me begin with a couple of updates, which are quite significant. First, as most of you know, yesterday the U.S. Federal Reserve announced a significant increase in interest rates of 0.75%, which is the largest increase since 1994. And they announced that there will be another likely increase at their next meeting, maybe as early as next month. Now, Jerome Powell is as clueless as ever. He said, this may lead to a, quote, recession, unquote. But as he and many economic commentators are saying, the economic pain is necessary to fight inflation. You can expect a slowing economy. The estimate now is that it's going to go from, according to the Atlanta Federal Reserve, the second quarter growth rate will go from what they had anticipated to be 0.9% to 0 because of the interest rate hike. So they say there will be a slowing economy, job losses, and rates will continue to go up. Now, this is panic. This is not a solution. And what they're proposing is that you take the harsh medicine, which may mean you can't afford rent, you can't afford food. In the United Kingdom, already it's announced that disposable income is projected to fall by over 2% in the months ahead. So, is this going to solve anything? Well, it may protect the bloated debt system of the financial interests, but it will immiserate hundreds of millions of people and possibly kill hundreds of millions of people who already are facing food scarcity problems. So as I said, this is panic, it's no solution. Now, the second update has to do with Ukraine. Now, Biden is explaining why he had to attack oil company profits. He justified this by saying that above normal profits in the oil business are, quote, not acceptable, unquote, at, quote, a time of war, unquote. What war? Did Biden declare war? He's not allowed to by the Constitution. Did Congress declare war? Absolutely not. So what's he talking about? Well, he just announced $1 billion more in weapons will be going to Ukraine from the United States. And yesterday, the so-called contact group met in Brussels under the direction of the Defense Secretary from Raytheon, Lloyd Austin. And Austin, in his opening address, said, we must go further to aid Ukraine. We must, quote, intensify our shared commitment to ensure Ukraine can defend itself. Well, as you probably are beginning to gather, as it's even seeping through the lying mainstream press, Ukraine is not going to win this war. Its army is being decimated in the Donbass region. Providing more weapons is not going to help. It's actually going to lead to a more harsh response if they continue to use these weapons. Now, Scholz, Macron, and Draghi, the Chancellor of Germany, the President of France, and the Prime Minister of Italy, are going to Kiev today. Are they going there to press Ukraine to accept the inevitable and make an agreement for a ceasefire and an end to the war? or to pledge to continue the flow of weapons and allow the war to continue. We don't really know. But we have this from Zelensky's chief advisor, Arestovich. And what he said is that they're going to tell us we need to end the war and try to negotiate a Minsk III. Now, everyone knows Ukraine rejected Minsk II, which they signed. They never followed it through, and the Germans and the French, who were co-signatories, never pushed them to do that. But Arestovich said, if they do try to get us to end the war, this, quote, is a problem for Ukraine, unquote. The same advisor said that Ukraine may use the weapons, the long-range missiles being provided now by the United States and Europe, to attack Crimea. And what he said is, Crimea is ours, the Russians know it, the world knows it. Therefore, he implied, it's legitimate to go after Crimea with these new weapons. So the idea of extending the war, the idea of extending the war on the population through these so-called anti-inflation measures, that's what the establishment has in mind. Now, here's what we're doing. We have a conference this weekend titled "A Decoupling of the," Bankruptcy Reorganization is Necessary for Peace and Development. It will begin at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Central Europe Time on the schillerinstitute.com website. And you can register for it by clicking on the registration form at the bottom of the description page. The first panel is titled "A Decoupling of the Two Systems, or a New Paradigm for Humanity." The keynote address will be given by Schiller Institute founder Helga Zepp-LaRouche. She'll be followed by Dr. Andrei Kortunov, who many of you know from speaking at previous conferences. He's the Director General of the Russian International Affairs Council, and his topic will be Russia and the Indivisible Security of All Nations. He'll be followed by Colonel Richard Black, retired, who's the former head of the U.S. Army's Criminal Law Division at the Pentagon and a former Virginia state senator. His topic is, quote, "The U.S. is leading the world to nuclear war," unquote. He'll be followed by Dr. Wolfgang Bittner from Germany, an author, a lawyer. His topic is the West-East conflict and orchestration. Then we'll have Sam Petroda, a prominent Indian-American businessman, innovator, entrepreneur, and he'll be speaking on the topic India and the Emerging New World Architecture. And he'll be followed by Jay Naidu, a former cabinet minister in South Africa under Nelson Mandela. His topic is Africa, the continent of the future. And then Dr. Clifford Kirikoff, who's a former senior member of the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations and the president of the Washington Institute for Peace and Development. And he'll be speaking on diplomacy and cooperation in a time of crisis. So that's the first panel. The second panel Saturday will begin at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be the moderator of that panel. We'll be opening it with a keynote from Diane Sayre, who is a LaRouche independent candidate for U.S. Senator from New York. Her topic is the collapse of the West and the urgent need to join the Belt and Road Initiative. She'll be followed by Dr. Kotagawa, a former Japanese finance ministry official, and he has an interesting title to his top presentation, quote, "Don't let this world be destroyed by filthy gamblers who call themselves Wall Street and the City of London." I think you'll enjoy his presentation. Then Dr. Uwe Behrens, a logistics manager and author from Berlin, on the, quote, non-rival doctrine, unquote. Then we have Dr. Nino Galloni, who's an economist from Italy, the former Director General of the Italian Labor Ministry, speaking on Make Africa Self-Sufficient Again. Then Jeff Young, who's a Democratic nominee for Congress from Kentucky's 6th District. And his topic is why the U.S. must join the Belt and Road Initiative. And then finally, former Ambassador Christianopoulos from Greece. He was a former ambassador to Poland, Canada, and Armenia. Former Secretary General of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization. And his topic is the crisis in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Belt and Road Initiative. And the panel will be ended with a food producers roundtable, including farmers and other people involved in agriculture and food production from all over the United States. Then on Sunday, 2 panels. The first panel, Principles of Science for Durable Economic Progress, and the second panel, Classical Culture and the Dialogue of Civilizations. I would urge you, whatever you're planning for this weekend, take some time, register for the conference, log on to the conference, and take in as much as you can. These are unique events. Now, some people write, what good is a conference? We need action. Well, action to do what? What's the solution? We're presenting solutions based on a method that has been proven by the record of forecasting of Lyndon LaRouche and the continuing work of our organization. We have solutions: bankruptcy reorganization, Glass-Steagall, a national credit system based on the Hamiltonian National Bank, physical economic production, and at the same time, using that as the basis for peaceful cooperation between East and West, North and South, instead of geopolitical division. So those of you who are frustrated and saying, well, why listen to a conference? Log on and see. Take the time. Listen to people who are experts in their fields, who are going outside of the mainstream to work with the Schiller Institute to provide alternatives for you to use to organize your friends, neighbors, co-workers, and those with whom you argue about politics. Rather than complain, rather than protest, rather than cry into your beer, join a movement that's doing the impossible. We just got enough signatures, 45,000 signatures of New York State voters to put Diane Sare on the ballot against Chuck Schumer. We're pulling together those nations of the 4 powers. As you can see from our program, we have BRICS countries represented: Russia, India, South Africa. We will have also on the panel someone from Brazil, which is another one of the BRICS countries. So we're doing this. We're acting to move the world into a new security and new financial architecture. So give up your skepticism, or keep your skepticism, but let it be tested by the work that we're doing. So I urge you, take the time, log on, register, and become part of our movement. If you can't do it this weekend, if you have something urgent, well, it will be archived and will be available to you. But also share the link with your friends and others. So join us. And remember, I won't be here tomorrow for the usual Friday update. But Saturday, we have this conference, and I think it would be well advised for you to attend. Thanks, and see you on Saturday.